Hi, Dan here. As a doctor, technical questions, it's not like the technical questions you get when interviewing to work in a new hospital. It's medical cases, the same medical cases that you would see in hospital, adapted to the cruise line. So the treatment might be a bit different. You do not have access to an angiogram. You do not have access to a CT scan or an MRI. You will not be able to do all the blood tests that you want to do on land. Some tests you just can't do. But we want your general approach to a patient, your algorithmic approach to a patient, just to see that you've got the right approach. And then you start speaking to them about, oh, okay, so this patient has right iliac fossa pain. On taking history, you said that he started 2 days ago, a bit of periumbilical pain, now has migrated to the right, with a little bit of fever as well. He's anorexic. What kind of analgesics are you gonna give this patient? Oh, you know what, I'm gonna admit him in our medical center. They want your pain management approach. You don't have an ultrasound with you. You're gonna take blood, you're gonna do a CBC, you're gonna do chemistry, you're gonna do this and that. And then they might ask you something about, I don't know, the Alvarado score, Then you mention the Alvarado score and what you would do if the Alvarado is 2 versus if the Alvarado score is 7, things like that. And then when it comes to the disposition of the patient, you can't operate on this patient on board. It looks an acute appendicitis, So are you gonna keep this patient for another 2 days before you reach the next port? Or are you gonna do an emergency medevac? That depends on several factors. List these factors. Now, what if you have a case of ectopic pregnancy on board or suspecting ectopic pregnancy? What will you do? So they're gonna adapt all these cases to you being on a cruise ship in the middle of the ocean with limited resources. What would you do to save this patient's life? They might give you a trauma case. Patient has fallen down some stairs. Usually these are real cases that have happened on cruise ships and that might have been poorly handled by the doctor on duty or the nurse on duty. And so they're putting the same case to you to see if your approach will be better. Patient has fallen down a flight of stairs. It's a trauma case. Patient is bleeding in hypovolemic shock. You arrive at the scene. There's blood all over. Looks like there's a... Now, if you want to hear more about that, join me on Patreon, where I discuss these in depth. Join me on Patreon for more stories about the cruise ship industries, food stories, more tips, your chance to ask me questions, all that good stuff. Join me on Patreon. I answer all your questions. I will give you tips on how to finally get that job that you really want in the cruise line industry. What to do to enhance your resume for the cruise line industry, what not to do.